Hey everybody, I want to apologize for taking such a long hiatus. It's been quite a while since I started making these videos, and I apologize for that. The biggest reason has been that I have actually been feeling pretty well, so anxiety hasn't been on my mind as much as it used to be, which was 24/7. Lately I've rarely thought about it, but I've also been extremely busy. I spent about 6 to 8 weeks, all day, every day, pretty much, planning a benefit for a friend's stepdad. And then I was applying for jobs, and this last month I've been working, so I've actually been extremely busy. Yeah, I've been really busy. Anyway, I found that my anxiety has really tied in with how I'm feeling physically. I know I mentioned that I had my gallbladder removed and a hiatal hernia in one of my last videos. I was having pretty good luck with my medications working to make me feel better, and now in the last couple months I've been having really bad pain, and so I'm not sure if that's the culprit or not, but ever since Friday night I've been feeling, well, today's Monday, I've been feeling pretty anxious. Tonight I don't feel like I can calm down, so it's probably a good thing that I'm back. I basically kind of, again, chucked this to the wayside and threw it in my closet and kind of forgot about it because I didn't really feel like I needed it, but regardless, I think I should do the entire program no matter how great I feel. One thing though that I think I actually mentioned this in the previous video, I hated everybody telling me that one of the best things for anxiety is exercise. However, I don't even remember when it was, probably the beginning of June. I was to the point before where I could barely walk out of my building, my condo here, and I kind of progressively worked myself, to getting out. I still felt pretty anxious no matter where I went, but I was finally able to at least be calm at home. Back in June, I started, one day I had dinner out on my patio, right there, you can see. I just sat out there for a couple of hours, enjoyed the sunshine, was on my laptop, and I actually got to talking to a friend who he had been working out and mentioned that he should go running, and I said I should do the same. Well, not run, but, start out with some exercise, and we kind of made a pact, and I said, well, if you go exercise tonight, because he didn't feel like it, I said I will too. So it's kind of how it started, and I began going on walks probably about every other day, and I was eating really well. I had actually lost some weight and dropped about 1 dress size in 4 weeks, so I was actually doing pretty well. And then all the hernia pains started coming back, and I had a lot going on where I was never at home, so I was just eating poorly, and here I am. So I just wanted to get back into the Lucinda Bassett program and kind of just tell you a little bit about this session 2. It's basically about panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and it talks a little bit about depression, which I don't really think I'm going to get into. I think we all pretty much know that when you're anxious, you become depressed because it's a shitty way to live, basically. But this basically, the overview says that you cause anxiety. The one paragraph that's really fitting to me says, after you experience external anxiety, you then become concerned with your body feelings and symptoms. You think about them to the point where you actually start to scare yourself with them, which creates internally generated anxiety. And that's my biggest thing. Friday night I was out with a friend, we were at dinner, and actually before I left, I wasn't feeling very well. I had that goofy feeling in my head that I get, and we went out and I pushed through dinner, and I actually took a Xanax when we were at the restaurant, which I haven't done since probably March or April, and it's August now. And now I think I've kind of been thinking about it, especially today when I was at work, because I really haven't been feeling well, like I said, with the hernia pain and everything. So I probably have to have surgery again per my doctor. So I just had a lot on my mind, and now I'm obsessing again about my anxiety. But basically, what this says is external anxiety is generated or caused by something real, something that's going on in your life. And internal anxiety is the type of anxiety that's generated or caused by your concern about your external anxiety and the way it makes you feel, which, I mean, a lot of people probably have both, but mine is mostly the latter. Then it talks about depression and your moods, and goes on to talk about what happens with depression, which I think we all know. But now it's talking about a 6-step approach to self-control when dealing with an anxiety attack. And the first thing is to accept it. It says recognize that you are feeling anxious. Accept your body feelings as a symptom of your anxiety and a sign that something's bothering you. Second is to give yourself permission to feel anxious about whatever it is that's bothering you. The third is to breathe. First, inhale through your nose slowly for 2 seconds, mentally counting 1,000 to 1,000. Then exhale through your mouth to mental count of 4 seconds again by 1,000s. And do this for at least a minute. Then it talks about inner dialogue. It says use truthful, positive dialogue to talk yourself through the anxious time. It will pass. Examples of dialogue might be, it's just anxiety, it will go away, I won't lose control, I can still go about my business, feeling spaced out, it won't hurt me. Number 5 is to distract yourself. Get busy, do something to release some of this self-induced stimulation. Your body is like a car in high gear with the brakes on. Don't just sit there, walk, jog, clean closets, but do something. Distract yourself from the way you're feeling. Now, I know a year ago when I used to try to exercise, it didn't matter. I couldn't think of anything but the way I was feeling. And my anxiety got quite a bit better this past year. So I think a lot of it was just, I got lucky. But like I said, when I was exercising earlier in the summer, just the sunshine, being outside, thinking more positively, and that was one thing that really did help, I think, was just kind of mentally changing your frame of mind, even though life pretty much sucks when you are dealing with anxiety. But I kind of tried to not think about all the negativity so much, and I think it did help somewhat. And then it says let time pass. Try to see a little humor in the way you feel. You might feel weird, but you don't look weird. Give yourself permission to feel weird for a little while. It's no big deal. Try to figure out what's really bothering you. Is it some type of conflict that you don't want to deal with? Is it a scary thought? Is it a ridiculous expectation you have about yourself? Yeah, that's basically it. Now it says exercises. You are your safe place and your safe person. You can make yourself feel better. And then it asks you to answer questions about your anxiety and panic attacks. What are you most afraid of when you're having a panic attack? What symptoms do you feel right before the attack? What symptoms do you feel during the attack? And then the next step is, what do you do when you feel you're going to have an attack? What you should do is not run from it, accept it, distract yourself. It will go away. Do something physical, use positive dialogue, and find something positive to read. Don't stop talking. Start worrying. How long will it last? Find my safe place or person. Drink alcohol or self-medicate. This talks about breathing. When you experience your first sensation of panic, we suggest that you change your breathing right away. It talks about what I just said about the counting, doing the inhaling and doing that for 60 seconds. And then it says immediately fill yourself with positive, comforting dialogue. And it says that this exercise will tremendously help in preventing a full-blown attack from spiraling. The next thing is to put it in practice. And this is basically the exercise of this session. It says begin each day by reading the carrying along card that goes with session 2. That's where I left off with this program when I started it several months ago, and I know where that card is. It's in my nightstand, but I'm not going to go get it. It's basically what I just talked about. To accept, to give yourself permission, breathe, the inner dialogue, that stuff. And it says to listen to your relaxation session 3 times daily. This week you need to continue tapering off of caffeine and high sugar foods and drink. You may need 2 or 3 weeks to accomplish this. If you're smoking or using alcohol to calm down, it's time to start charting this and decrease your dependence on these negative behaviors. The third thing is to initiate the beginnings of a daily exercise routine, and gives the disclaimer, check with your doctor before you do anything. 4 is morning meditation. Begin each day. Get up 15 minutes before your household gets busy. Sit in a comfortable chair. Choose either a spiritual image or an aesthetic one. Close your eyes. See the peaceful scene you've chosen. And then if an intrusive thought occurs, simply say, goodbye, it's my time to relax. Refocus. You may choose a mantra and repeat it over and over. The 5th thing is, it says, precious present moment living is a healthy habit. You can stress and depress yourself just lying in bed. This occurs when you habitually mentally live in the future or in the past. And at some point I must have thought this was pretty important because I underlined that sentence. That's what I was basically doing 4 or 5 months ago. I was just laying in bed all day, and a lot of it was because I was sick, but the more you lay around, the worse it gets, and depression kicks in, blah, 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 blah. Sure, I don't have to tell you. But it says, when you focus all your attention on the here and now, it's difficult to feel either stress or worry. Intrusive thoughts can be turned away if you consciously shift your awareness back to the present moment. Practice the next time you are in line, stopped at a light, feeling overwhelmed or down. Notice the change in body symptoms as you change back and forth. The 6th thing is move it meditation. As you begin walking, inhale and exhale deeply 3 times. Set a pace that is brisk but very doable. Begin each step saying 1, 2, 1, 2. After 2 minutes, focus outward. Be fully aware of all that you see, hear, smell, feel. You can even taste the salt on your upper lip if you wish. After 5 minutes, go back to 1, 2, 1, 2. Keep this pattern or when you design for the duration of your walk. I just found that, the distraction of cars and birds and, kids playing in the park was enough for me. I didn't really need to do the 1, 2, 1, 2. Just FYI. The 7th thing is to picture peace. It says choose several beautiful and detailed postcards or greeting cards. When you feel frazzled or frantic, sit down in a comfortable spot and focus totally on the details in your pictures one by one. Try this several times a week. Notice how your body feels after just 10 minutes. And this was actually something that I did for a little while before. I did feel like it helped, but it's just like meditation for me. I can't sit and do nothing for any amount of time, which is probably why I have anxiety, because I'm constantly going. But one thing that did work for me, and I can't remember if I already talked about this before or not, was my therapist had actually suggested coloring in a color book, or she said crafts were kind of bad for me. Well, I think because I had been doing nothing but crafts for a period of time, but something where you're actually paying attention to what you're doing and trying to focus on anything other than your obsessive thoughts. Like when I was coloring, you're paying attention to the lines and all that. So it did actually help me. I would start out my morning like that for half an hour out of the day. I would just sit down and color. Feels kind of weird, but it actually did help. The next thing says downshift. Do everything this week at a slower pace. Walking, speaking, and thinking. If you're feeling blue and sluggish, you might want to do the opposite. It says to make notes in your journal every day regarding this experience. Choose a symbol or image that reminds you to slow down. It could be a rosebud, an old cane fishing pole, whatever. Put the symbol wherever you spend time, in your bathroom, rearview mirror, workroom, or the corner of your computer screen. And then it says, each day you should use your personal journal as directed in session 1, and to make a sincere effort to write down any new insights you have this weekend and the weeks to come. Your journal will enable you to see themes, patterns, progress, and grow. There is magic in writing. It says to write for just 5 minutes. If you feel you can't spare the time, maybe we've discovered one of the patterns in both thought and outward behavior that is causing some of your discomfort. See what I'm saying? How I can't just sit down and do nothing for a few minutes? Might be onto something. Number 10 says some individuals report that they have found it to be very therapeutic to write a biography, including their experience with anxiety and depression. And you know, I actually did this. I have a blog that I started a few years ago. It was never intended to become a blog about anxiety. But I did. I just went on there and I posted just kind of what I was going through, how I felt. Because I would have a lot of people tell me, you know, they could relate because they were anxious over, you know, taking a test or something. It's not really the same thing. And then people would constantly ask me how I felt, and I could just refer them to this blog rather than telling the story 20 times over in 1 week. You know, if people were really interested, they'd sit down and they'd read it and they'd learn a little bit about how I'm feeling. But this says it's equally beneficial to write it again in 2 weeks, 6 weeks, as many times as you feel you need to. Don't reread what you've written. Some find it helpful to destroy what they've written. It seems to symbolize letting go of the past and moving forward into a more peaceful future. And then it says, you will note the story gets shorter as you leave pieces on the outside. You'll feel less of an emotional response. This means you're experiencing some closure and resolution. And then it asks you to rate your panic attacks and how severe they are. With 1 being a little anxious, 4, 5, 6 is moderately anxious, 7, 8, 9 is very anxious, and 10 is full-blown panic. And then it asks you to time your episodes of panic. As you breathe, simultaneously count and look at a timepiece. You'll notice as the days go by, the intensity and duration of panic decreases. And the last thing says, identify the word or sound that you make every time you experience the panic response. Change the word or sound to something comforting. And then it's just kind of a summary that talks about what I just said and says you're on the right path to recovery, you're taking control. So yeah, that's session 2, and there doesn't really seem a whole lot to it. Again, it's just journaling and writing down when you're experiencing panic, and then getting back to the meditation 3 times a day. So that is the second session, and sorry, I just took a Xanax right before I started this video, and I can kind of feel it kicking in. I'm getting a little lethargic here, so that's why I sound so robotic tonight. But that's the second session, and I will actually stick to this week, and I will be back next week to move on with session 3. Hope you guys are all having a better time than the last time I spoke with you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!